Hello everyone, thanks for coming to my presentation. I'm going to be looking at the soda tax. So what is a soda tax? It's going to be a tax on sugary beverages, which can include soda, sports, fruit, or energy drinks. But just for the sake of this presentation, I'm just going to call all of it soda just to make it easier. And this is important to recognize because about 40% of added sugars in the U.S. diet are found in soda and other drinks. And for children, for every single soda that's consumed daily that's extra, there's an increase in risk of them becoming obese by 60%. And for youth, about 6 in 10 drink a soda daily, and about 5 in 10 adults drink one daily. And this intake is higher for males, ethnic minorities, and low-income individuals. And the cost of drinking excess sugar or having excess sugar in the diet are diet-related diseases such as obesity and weight gain and heart disease, things like that. And the cost of obesity for healthcare in the United States is about $147 billion annually, and about half of those are paid for by Medicaid and Medicare, which are taxpayer money. So at a government level, at a federal level, some of the things that can be done to address this is one is requiring better labeling of these drinks through better representation of the calories on the bottle, or even adding a warning label about the risks. But what I'm looking at is implementing a soda tax, which on the intervention ladder is guiding choice through a disincentive, which is definitely higher up on the ladder. The impact of a soda tax, if it's implemented, would be an incentive for people to switch to healthier drink options, which would mean fewer calories, less weight gain, and improved health. And there's a study done that for every 10% increase in price of a drink of a sugary beverage, the intake decreases by 7.8%. But these impacts are dependent on a couple things. One is what the tax is designed to do, so if it's designed to reduce consumption, create revenue, or both. And this is dependent on the size of the tax. So if it's a smaller tax, it's more likely to create revenue, but if it's a larger tax, then it would reduce intake significantly because it's more of a deterrent than just a few cents or a smaller tax. And it also depends on what these revenues are allocated for and what kind of tax is implemented. And by that, I mean there's two types of taxes that can be used for a soda tax. One is sales tax, which is the most common, and it's a percentage of the retail price, but it's only shown at the cash register. And this can encourage people to choose a cheaper brand or buy bigger containers rather than actually reducing intake of that drink. The other one is an excise tax, which is a fixed cost per ounce, and it's given to manufacturers, but they usually pass it on to the consumer by increasing the cost of the actual product, which is actually seen on the shelf versus at the cash register, and so it's more effective at reducing intake. The arguments for and against this definitely ties in a lot of the ethical considerations for this. For the arguments for the tax, there's no nutritional value for sugary beverages. It's not needed for us to survive. And it has all these health risks for the consumer. And implementing this tax would have potential for reducing the amount that people are drinking. There's also concerns about how marketers market these items to individuals, whether through misleading wording or using different marketing techniques to exploit vulnerable target audiences such as children. And low-income individuals are disproportionately affected by diet-related diseases. So having a tax that would reduce consumption would produce the greatest benefit for them, for this population. It would also generate revenue, which could then be used to support programs that address childhood and adult obesity. And when revenue is allocated for these types of programs, there's more support from the general public for this kind of tax. But on the opposite side, there's definitely a lot of opposition coming from the beverage industry, which makes sense because this is specifically targeting their business. And there's argument about government should interfere in the market, and that While some people say that food taxes can be compared to alcohol and tobacco taxes, there's also the side that says that they can't be compared because of they're very different in what the item is. And the soda tax can be considered to be regressive, and this means that the smaller the tax, the higher the tax, the less sales are being made because people are less likely to buy, which means that there's actually less revenue being created. And it's unfair. Another one is it's unfair to single out one type of food for taxation. However, when there's been bills set forth to broaden to just junk food in general or other sugary food items, from what I understand, there's not been any that's been able to pass. And it's also that implementing a soda tax won't solve the obesity epidemic. And while it doesn't solve it, it does definitely have benefit. And it's also concerned that people aren't actually going to be making healthier switches. They're just going to substitute with other unhealthy items. So some alternative policy options, which one is the idea of subsidizing produce. And this is more of an incentive, and this is just below where a soda tax is on the intervention ladder. And a study was found that implementing a 10% produce subsidy would prevent and delay more cardiovascular deaths compared to either a mass media campaign, which is very low on the ladder, or a 10% soda tax, or a 30% produce subsidy just for SNAP participants. So this is a 10% produce subsidy across the board. That's the best option. But there is also to note that the 10% soda tax was found to still be better than just a mass media campaign. So while there's not as much research on if it's feasible to do subsidizing produce on a large scale, it's most likely that it would cost more than the soda tax. So there's been recommendations about combining these policies and also to use the revenue from a soda tax to then provide produce subsidies, so combining it that way. So thank you for listening, and I look forward to your questions below.